All right, and here we are. Welcome, everybody, to today's session of Junior Achievement New Jersey's Women's Future Leadership Academy. We are so excited because it is our very first executive career panel of the year, and we have a fabulous group of women who are so happy that they've joined us. And students, you're really going to have a great opportunity to learn from them. So thank you to all of our panelists who have joined and all of our students who are joining as well. And also, we'd like to give a shout out to our program sponsors. Thank you so much for your support of the Women's Future Leadership Academy. MetLife, Sanofi, CDW, Church and Dwight, Deloitte, CNBC, EY, Carney Bank, Merck, New Jersey Resources, Prudential, PSE&G, Valley Bank, and Wells Fargo. Students, those of you who are joining, just a reminder, you can continue to build your leadership skills with Junior Achievement. We've got all types of great things for you to do. New this year, you can earn Junior Achievement of New Jersey's digital badge for career readiness. You have to attend 5 or more sessions, complete a survey, and submit a final project. You can earn that badge. This is a great thing to add to your resume, your LinkedIn profile, your college applications. It really just says that you are a leader with the Women's Future Leadership Academy and Junior Achievement. Also, you can become a Women's Future Leadership Academy student ambassador. Details for that and the digital career badge are on the program website, janjacademy.org. Upcoming sessions. We've got some great things in store, students, that you won't want to miss starting this Friday. Schools are closed, but we're still open, so please join us for a special career workshop with our partners EY. That's on Friday at a different time, 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So if you'd like to brush up on your leadership skills and learn a little bit about some cool careers in the finance industry, please join us on Friday. Then again, next week, we go back to our regular schedule, Wednesdays at 5, with Networking with Confidence. And then after that, Leading with Innovation, Women in STEM Growth Mindset, and then another executive career panel. And then finally, on 12:15, Financial Empowerment, and that is with our partner, CNBC. So please feel free to join us, then we hope you do. And without further ado, I'd like to welcome and thank again our panelists for today. Again, a fabulous group of women that you'll get to know and learn from in just a moment. But thank you again, Zoella Castro from Sanofi, Dr. Serena Farquharson-Torres from BMS, Amy Larosa from Accenture, and Socha McCutcheon, from Verizon. And of course, our wonderful moderator, you may have seen her before, students, if you're joining us for the second time, our JAA intern and student at Drexel, Sanjana Suresh. So without further ado, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and turn it over to Sanjana for introductions and to begin our program. Welcome, Sanjana.
Thank you so much, Christy. It's great to be here. Hi, everyone. I'm Sanjana. I am a student at Drexel University, currently a sophomore majoring in finance and business analytics. At school, I'm involved in Drexel Women in Business and student government. And with JA, I'm an alumni intern. I am the fireside chat coordinator for the organization, and I absolutely love working here. I'm very pleased to moderate today's executive career panel. Let's start with introductions. Panelists, please take a moment to share your title, company, and job description. Zoella, let's please start with you.
Thank you, and good afternoon, everybody. It's a pleasure for me to be here with you. My name is Zoella Castro. I'm a physician, family medicine, and occupational medicine, and I have been working for Sanofi since 2008. I am an associate vice president, and I head the occupational health department for Sanofi North America. My main job is to ensure that employees' health is kept intact, that they are not, that their health is not affected negatively because of any work-related exposure or work-related environment, and also to ensure that the company is compliant with the multiple regulations that we have in North America. So thank you again. It's a pleasure for me to be here. Looking forward to the rest of the program.
Thank you, Zoella. Next, let's hear from Serena.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. It's a pleasure for me to be here as well. My name is Dr. Serena Farquharson Torres, and I am Executive Director and Assistant General Counsel at Bristol Myers Squibb. Basically, I'm a patent lawyer. I lead the therapy, cardiovascular therapy area for innovation law, and I manage a group of patent lawyers that supports obtaining patents for inventions dealing with heart failure and cardiovascular diseases. We handle the support of um, uh, uh, acquisitions that we might have for external research that happens, and also to just provide counseling to all of the clients throughout the company. Looking forward to share more about my career with you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Next, let's hear from Amy.
Hi, everyone. I'm Amy Larosa. I am a Senior Managing Director at Accenture, which is a large global consulting company. Basically, my responsibilities, I run what we call business process outsourcing for all of our clients that are headquartered in the Northeast. So think of it as, my teams will run a client's finance organization, supply chain, procurement, HR, marketing organization. So it's really kind of a logical extension of our clients' organizations. I have a team of extended team of about 30,000 people. And so I love running a global team. And I was a economics major, French minor at Bucknell University. And fun fact, I have 2 COVID puppies.
That's so adorable. And lastly, we'll hear from Sochep.
Hi, everybody. I'm Sochep McCutcheon. I am an Associate General Counsel at Verizon, and I practice privacy. Basically, any projects, tools, systems that involve the use of personal information, I make sure that it comports with privacy standards and requirements. I am a mom to 2 young boys who are 6 and 4. And fun fact, guess what? I'm also an alumna of Junior Achievement from way, way back, a long time ago.
Wow, that's amazing. I can totally relate to you there. All right, so thank you everyone for those intros. Let's get to our first question, and we'll stay in the same order for now, beginning with Zoella. We all know that life can throw us very unexpected challenges. So please tell us about your greatest challenge or your greatest setback and how you overcame it. Zoila, we'll start with you.
Thank you. I think it's a great question. And when I read the information, I had to think about it because we all have lots of challenges, right, in our lives and careers, and to think of one. But going back in my own life and career, I would say that my greatest challenge is also the best thing that ever happened to me, and that was coming to the US. I was born in Honduras and came here as a preteen. And it was a drastic change in my life, having to learn a new culture, having to learn a new language, facing bias that I had never faced before, and trying to overcome it while trying to become acclimated to the new country. And at the same time, trying to keep my individuality and not forgetting where I came from. So it was a challenge. And but as mentioned earlier, it was also one of the best things that happened to me. It started to teach me about resiliency, and resiliency it's something that we all need in our lives, as both professionally and personally. So again, one of my greatest challenge, but one of the best things in my life as well. Thank you.
Thank you for that answer. Yeah, I kind of faced the opposite thing where my parents are from India, but I was born here. So especially with your point to individuality and really sticking with my roots, that's always been a challenge. But you know, there's certain ways to work around it. So
Absolutely.
I'm glad you brought up that answer. I'm sure a lot of people can relate.
I'm sure. Thank you.
Yeah. So next, let's hear from Serena.
In giving some thought to this, I have one challenge that I think is two sides of the same coin. In the early part of my career, it was a challenge to get initial experience as a patent lawyer. Once I was hired as a patent lawyer at a law firm, I ran into a challenge where the partner didn't want to assign work to me, assuming that it would be too difficult as far as the science is concerned. I don't know why he thought that. He hired me. I have a PhD in biological chemistry, so it's really just science. And so to overcome that, I worked with one of my colleagues that happened to be a white male, and he wanted me to be on board because he was being overworked. And we just kind of tag teamed that partner until I finally got started. I did confront him after that and pointed out, my background, and it ended up backfiring on him in the future because I moved in-house to a pharmaceutical company, and the thing he wanted most was to work for our pharmaceutical company, and I definitely wasn't going to let that happen. But the other side of that coin is later in my career where I had all of the experience in the world, but wasn't really being compensated financially as I was getting more experience. I went from leading a team of attorneys, moved to being global head of the consumer health care for the legal department, moved on to lead the Asia Pacific region and doing litigation and strategy. And all of those moves did not change anything as far as they were nice titles, but they were not really salary increases. So in order to overcome that, I did speak to leaders a lot about that. And when I got to see that it was just going into a vicious circle and it was not moving anywhere, I decided to leave that company and to move on to another company, which was just a lateral move, wasn't up, but it turned out that in that move was a big change in my life and career because number one, I got a higher compensation right off the bat. It was things that I didn't even realize I was leaving on the table, such as stock. That was a game changer. Then just leading different organizations and following my passion a lot more freely. I developed different skill sets and I was able to be promoted and the compensation always followed. So I would say not being afraid to, make a move like that, even though you don't know where it's leading to. It may seem like, it's uncertain, but sometimes you need to make a decision and make a move.
Thank you so much for that answer. I know, especially women in the workplace, dealing with inequality is such a huge thing. And, personally, as a college student, I'll be in the workplace soon. So hearing your answer was very inspiring. Thank you so much. Next, we have Amy.
Okay, so this has been a really hard challenge for me. My 18-year-old son, Matt, passed away almost 2 years ago when he was a senior in high school. And when I read the question, it's like, how did you overcome it? And, I must say, I haven't overcome it yet, but I'm really learning to live with it. And I just wanted to share some learnings about approaching complicated grief and some of the things I've been dealing with during this time. So the importance of leaning on friends, family, support groups, work is, been really important for me. And to be really transparent on help needed. When I need help, I raise my hands and I say, guys, I really could use some help here. And having those strong communication skills to really communicate what's going on with me, to communicate. I have two husband, two other boys, extended family, whatever, just to have a really open, transparent communication's been, really helpful. And I've also learned the importance of self-care, the importance to take care of myself so I can take care of others, take care of my team at work. So that's been a really hard one for me because I was always the one who never took care of myself. So to put myself first so I can help be best support to others has been really, really important for me over the last 2 years. So thank you for letting me share. It's a tough one, and I'm on a journey, but I'm glad to be able to share this with you today.
Thank you so much for your answer, Amy. And as you said, I think it's very easy to take on the weight of the world and just on your shoulders. And, it's very easy to hole up and not ask for help. So I'm really glad you shared that. I'm sure everyone can take a lot from that answer.
Yeah. Thank you so
Next.
much for your
Yeah.
vulnerability, Amy. I'm
Yes, thank
a
you.
crier, so.
I held it together. It's a newer skill
did.
for me.
Yes.
So my tissues are right here, but we're okay.
But it would be okay if you cried, and I'm going to tell myself that it's okay that I'm crying too. So I'm so chapped, and I am going to go with the same answer as Zoella. You had started with. Definitely not just one experience, but probably my entire childhood, because I came here when I was 4, and my parents came from Cambodia, where they had just survived the Khmer Rouge regime. And, the same as what you were just saying, Zoila, growing up in an immigrant family, having survived, trauma, balancing 2 very different identities and trying to charter new territories. And I would say, as a child, I probably didn't know these things were challenges, but now as an adult, my goodness, they are definitely challenges, because for us, my entire childhood was basically, an exercise in my parents trying to survive and trying to make a better life for all of us, and, working multiple jobs to get us out of poverty, and as a child having a free lunch card, which back in the day, by the way, was like neon and very colorful and very obvious that you were a free lunch kid, and so subjected to teasing, and having parents who didn't speak the language, and so having to translate important doctor's appointments and calls with utility companies at a very young age, for parents. And these are not things that my children will be doing anytime soon, but maybe I should, because it's probably a good lesson. And so, crying and fighting with my parents about trying to go to the middle school dance or the prom or whatever, but no, you can't do that, because what good Cambodian girl does that? But wait, but I'm also American. And so, just those kinds of things. And then also, where I grew up, we became homeless for a short time at the age of 10, because there were guys from a white gang who just hated immigrants in this area. I grew up in the Boston area, and there was a lot of hate crime. And they burned down our apartment. Well, they burned down a different apartment, and because it was so windy, our apartment also caught fire along with several other apartments. And this was an immigrant community, and so it displaced over 100 of us that night in this town, in the city in Massachusetts. And this is just a short list of the various things that I experienced as a child, and definitely shapes who I am today. And I would say, I don't know, I don't really think about it as overcoming it, but having lived it and having experienced it, and definitely overcame it probably by opportunities that people have given to me, by my parents, by teachers, by programs like Junior Achievement, which kind of exposed me to new things and exposed me to what success could look like. So yes, I'm going to go with your answer too, Zoila. Thanks for letting me share that.
Thank you so much for that answer, Socheth. I mean, I look at my parents who are in a similar position as you, and I have no idea how they were able to, move to a whole different country and navigate a whole different life. It's so crazy to me, and then I look at my life and the things that I think are challenges, and it's just nothing could ever compare. So thank you for that answer. And thank you everyone for your answers. That was such a fabulous answer session to that question. So we have some very fantastic young women who are joining us today. And in thinking about the high school girls that are with us and just in the future, what would you tell your younger self? So Amy, let's begin with you.
Sure. So I would say, to myself back in the day, really to reach for the stars and don't be afraid to go out of the comfort zone. I was really shy. I was really quiet. I was really nervous about speaking up in case I was wrong. And that when I started working, I worked in a very male dominant environment. So it was really hard for me to find my voice. And I really learned the importance and the necessity to find that voice, to share my opinions, to share my perspectives. I learned that I didn't have to say a lot. I didn't have to be the same type of leader as my male counterparts. To just, make my statements impactful, right? And make sure my voice is heard, because my voice is an important voice. And it took me a long time to evolve that skill over the years, but that's something I wish I had learned a lot earlier. And the importance of practicing it over time. So that would be the one thing I would highlight.
Absolutely. And the point you made about being your own leader apart from male counterparts is so important with, just realizing that there is a difference, but at the same time, we don't need to succumb to it. We can blaze our own trail and do our own thing, especially in the workplace. So thank you so much for that answer. Next, we'll hear from Socha.
So I think I figured out a couple things, and one of my biggest things is that to chart your course towards happiness. Like I was not one of those people who knew what I wanted to do. Like I really admire people, young people who say in middle school or high school, like I want to be this or I want to be that, or even people who are in law school now who say, I want to be a transactional lawyer or I want to be this kind of lawyer. I was never that kind of person who knew what I wanted to do or what I wanted to be. So I think my advice is to chart your course towards happiness, because if you take the path that will make you happy, I think success will follow. And I think it applies to everything. I think it applies to colleges. I think it applies to jobs, friendships, relationships. Family may be a little bit more complicated because you're kind of stuck with them sometimes. But I think, if you follow your gut, this is what's going to make me happy, I think you'll end up in a good place. And then the other thing is very related to what Amy said. It was, don't be afraid to ask for what you want. I mean, of course, within reason, because people aren't mind readers. If you see an opportunity, you want it, go for it, ask for it. Don't be afraid, because I think most people are always looking to help and wanting to help. And so asking for it is a good thing.
Absolutely. And I think it's really easy, especially as a young person, to get caught up in this idea of what you want your life to be or what you think it should be. But there's really just so much out there. And until you go out there and explore it, you never know. So I really like that idea of charting your path to happiness. So next we have Zoella.
So the first one for me, what I would tell my younger self is, don't let anybody define you. You define who you are, and know who you are, and know what you want others to see in you. And it's very easy to be defined by family based on cultural norms, or by people that you meet, or by school or whatever. But if that is not aligned with who you are and who you see yourself as, don't let that influence you. You know who you are. Look inside you, and again, don't think that this comes overnight, right? But I think with time you learn who you are and where you want to be. The second one for me, and I think that it was mentioned also, but I think it's so key, especially for women, is to advocate for yourself. You need to know your worth, you need to know your value, and you need to advocate for yourself. And even as young kids in high school, you need to know what works for you, and don't let anybody tell you otherwise if it doesn't work for you. A very quick anecdote: when I came to the US, they put me in remedial classes because I didn't speak English. And I noticed that whatever I was learning, I already knew. It had already been taught to me in Honduras. So I went to my father and said, I'm not learning anything. And then again, remedial classes back then was comprised of everybody, not just people who didn't speak English, but the people who were not doing well, the people who were a little bit disruptive, and everybody, right? So my father walked with me into the counselor's office and said, I want my kid in regular classes. And the answer was, she's not going to do well because she doesn't speak English well yet. And he said, I don't care. I want her in regular classes and we will figure it out. And we did, yes. And it was challenging to be, the expectations now, I mean, regular classes are much higher. But if I had not told my father, if he had not advocated for me, would I have learned what I did? Probably not, or probably yes. But again, my point is, know what is right for you and advocate for it. And it doesn't matter what other people tell you. If you know that that is right or not right for you, speak up. And I think the last one is, don't sweat the small stuff. And I know this is cliche, but when we are growing up, we focus on everything. I remember crying, like it was said. I remember, oh my goodness, I'm never going to do this. You know what? Eventually, things do work out, and just set yourself a goal. You probably don't, and it's okay to not know what that goal is, but don't sweat the small stuff. Life does work out in the end.
Absolutely. That was amazing advice overall. Couldn't have said it better myself. And lastly, for this question, we have Serena.
I would say to my younger self to really pay attention to the things I really enjoy and try to, and those will be things that I enjoy, things that I'm good at, things that that will help me as far as dealing with decision making as far as careers and things like that. I think doing what you're doing, participating in junior achievement is perfect. When I was your age, I didn't have this, so I had a very limited exposure to the possible careers and had to just kind of figure it out along the way. But I would say, uh, you know, speak up for yourself as far as things where I could see it in school in the school age was like, if you need help, get help, and if no one's helping you, just pursue that help until you get it, from the teachers, from other students in the class who might get it better than you, or tutors. Don't stop until you get your questions answered. Also trying out for things. If it's a club you're interested in, things that's where your passion, things that you really want to do, and you might be nervous or shy about it, but go for it. And if you see things that you are interested in that may not even exist, think about ways that you could still participate in them. I saw an example of that where a student tried out for the golf team in his school. He didn't make the golf team. And so he created a club, a golf club. So this was made up of all the people who love golf but didn't make the golf team. And so there's even that in college. So, I would say that I have seen that in my work world as well, where things that I'm passionate about that might not exist, that I would create it, and next thing you know, it's a thing. It's a whole thing where it leads to a lot of things for other people to work on and can make a big difference in people's lives. So I would say that would be my message to my younger self.
Thank you so much for that. Yeah, I think just being a self-starter and taking your own initiative can go such a long way, as you said. So thank you. And thank you everyone for sharing. To our students, just a quick reminder that you can post questions in the chat room, so please do so. We'd love to hear what you want to ask. And now for the last question from me, looking back on your life and your career, what skill or skills did you develop that enabled you to come this far and accomplish so much? Amy, we'll hear from you first.
Sure. So I have a couple. One is just continuous learning and curiosity. And just, I was at a reception last night and I said, you know what, I learned 3 things today. And I learned, and I'm like, every day I feel like I learned something new. And just being open to, whatever comes our way is extremely important. The world is changing so fast. We need to be very, just agile, flexible, whatever. And so having that, continuous learning, curiosity, the importance of listening and asking contextual questions really helps, I think, establish relationships. Really, it helps me when I work with my clients in terms of understanding their challenges, their business situations, whatever. The importance of developing a network and making sure that constantly in that I don't, I'm never going to know everything I need to know in order to solve the problem, the business challenges I'm solving. How can I leverage my network to help get work done? I sometimes say to people, I feel like I'm a professional dot connector, right? Because I'll be like, all right, there's a problem. There's someone who can help. You guys need to meet, right? So there's a lot of that. And I think the importance of empathy and developing just the ability to have empathy in conversations, whether it be building relationships with your teams, building relationships with your mentors, mentees, relationships with clients, and just being very empathetic, it will serve you really well, just in terms of just navigating through life. So those are just some of the skills that have been really important for me to hone over the years.
Thank you for sharing, and especially to the point of building a network. I think, this is a great network right here of all the women that are doing J&J's Women's Future Leadership Academy. So there you go. You already have a bunch of girls around you. As you go on, you'll meet a lot of people, so just make sure you keep them in your network. So next, we'll hear from Serena.
I would say I just knew that I had a lot of leadership inside of me, but I found that at work I wasn't really able to really lead anyone. I was the individual contributor, being a patent lawyer, doing my work, and I found that I started thinking about things that I was passionate about inside the company where I could make a difference. And so I ended up getting busy with a Black organization resource group where they had, I wanted to be involved with STEM. And so there was no STEM. And so I just started doing STEM. And next thing you know, I just basically appointed myself as chair and went and got a co-chair. And next thing you know, we asked for volunteers, and it was so many scientists were so passionate about this and they wanted to participate. And so next thing you know, we had a lot of initiatives, and I found that doing that, I was building more leaders because each of them were leading different initiatives, and it was helping their career. And I was very aware of that. And the next thing was that I realized I was such a thought leader in the space of D&I, diversity and inclusion, just because of my life. And so in the law department, I joined the D&I committee, and right away I could see that they weren't really doing much. It was just the intern program and that's it. And I was saying, we need to do more. Next thing you know, I was the vice chair. Next thing you know, I was the chair, and I was in the chair after the George Floyd murder, and that's right where I needed to be. And that whole committee is completely changed, and everybody's passionate about working on the different initiatives. And so in doing that, I ended up being very visible in the company. People saw how I led teams, created teams, and next thing you know, I was appointed to lead something that was substantive in the company, to lead an integration of one company into the company for the entire law department. And basically, I used the same skills that I had developed from doing the things I wanted to do. And so that really opened the door to a lot of more promotions, one after the other. But I would just say that, if you follow your passion and also believe in your own ability, even, and take action on it, not just sit there and complain and moan about it. It will make a big difference in your life.
Absolutely. And it sounds like you took a lot of initiative, and that's definitely something that I fully believe in. I think, it's very important to just take initiative and do things if you want them to be done. And that's just kind of the best way to go about it. So thank you for your answer. Next, we'll hear from Zoella.
So probably a lot of what has already been said, but I am naturally introverted. So to me, one of the skills that helped me get to where I am was attempting to be a good communicator. I found that that without communicating, people couldn't know what I wanted or what I was thinking, and vice versa. I couldn't go, and that prevented me from forming relationships with the right people. So communication has been key to me, particularly, and it has been it has come over time because I needed to get out of my shell. I'm again shy, and somebody mentioned networking, and networking is key in what we do and where we go, right? So communication it's key. Expressing what you feel, what you want, and listening to others. So it's not just a one-sided matter. It's listening and being listened to. I also going to say being a little bit of a risk taker, but take measured risks. Be open, listen to what's out there. So I think Serena said it, evaluate it. And you know what? Take measured risk. I don't think that if we stay where we are, we need to grow constantly. And in order to grow, we need to move forward. And sometimes you need to take a risk to do that. Obviously, you need to weigh the pros and cons. And I think also Serena said it, go with what you want to do, but take risks. Sometimes we get so comfortable where we are that we will never know if we stay where we are in that comfortable setting, what is out there. And what is out there could be much, much better than where you are. So again, I know that a lot of girls in high school tend to be shy. You know, try to get out of that and try to communicate, try to network, try to participate in things. I think that that would be a very, very good skill to have in your future.
Thank you for your
Thank
answer.
you.
And I'm definitely also guilty of staying in my comfort zone and not really exploring and taking risks. So that was great advice. Thank you. So lastly, let's hear from Sochet.
So I think everyone covered a lot of the skills that are so important. And I think I'll focus on one that I think when I look back to some of the pivotal moments in my career, what that skill is the ability to connect with people, the ability to, and it's not necessarily networking, it's the one that happens after networking. When you meet someone and having a real conversation, not just on the surface, small talk, getting to know somebody, getting to know their authentic self by showing who you really are, and letting people in. And I think it goes to a lot of the skills that Amy, you had mentioned, which is active listening, something I'm learning to do constantly, because the connection happens everywhere, right? In your professional life, in your personal life, in your family life. And I also think of myself as a professional dot connector, but also like a social dot connector. And so making those connections and building those relationships, it's just so important. And I think it's also so meaningful because it gives me a little bit more, I don't know, I feel like for me, it's not necessarily about the quantity of people I know, but really the quality of people and the quality of relationships that I have with people. And I think the deeper the connection, the farther you can go. And even in like a professional relationship, when someone feels connected to you, they're really bought into your success and they are invested in your success and they want to see you grow and they want to see you succeed. And so having those deeper connections with people can be a real benefit.
Thank you. And I think never thought of, having that sort of connection, someone's invested in your success. I really like that you use that phrase. So I'll definitely keep that in mind going forward. So thank you so much, everyone, for sharing your valuable insights. This was genuinely such a fabulous panel. I definitely will be thinking about all of your answers for a very long time after this, and I'm sure our students will as well. So thank you for taking the time to share everything with us. So now we will have Christy go through the questions for the Q&A portion. So Christy, I'm handing this off to you.
Great, thank you. And Sanjana, thank you again for doing such a wonderful job moderating our panel today. Fantastic as always. And panelists, wow. And students, you've been so great in the chat room too. I've really enjoyed seeing your comments in the chat room. And a couple great questions here. I'm going to start with a great question from Caitlin. And any of our panelists are welcome to answer this, and we can go in any order. But Caitlin asked, what's the best job decision you ever made, and how can we excel in our career paths? So it's kind of a two-part question, so I'll throw it out there to anyone who would like to take a turn answering that. What's the best job decision you ever made, and how can we as students excel in our career paths?
I can probably start. The best job decision and talking about risk taking was moving from being a clinical physician into leadership. And I knew that I love to be, being a doctor was my life, right? And I love the interactions with the patients, and I love the impact that I made when I examined the patient, diagnosed the patient, and made them better. And when I was offered this role, I knew that my clinical expertise will come in very handy, but I would not be the one actually doing the work, right? Because I couldn't. I had to have a team to do that for me. And I had to think about it because it was leaving something that I loved. But like I said earlier, it was something new and something that gave me a chance to put all those skills that I had learned in my life to practice and actually start an occupational health department the way that I thought should be run. So it was a measured risk. I weighed the pros and cons and I went with it, and it has turned out to be amazing. So to me, again, take measured risks, but do follow what you want to do. And if you feel that you're going to make an impact, go for it. If it doesn't work out, you always have something else to go. But like I said, I don't think that you will know what's on the other side unless you open that door and allow yourself to look beyond it.
Excellent, thank you. Anyone else like to answer this question?
I can chime in here.
Oh, go ahead, Amy.
Sure. Okay. So I would say this goes back about 11 or 12 years ago. I was tapped on the shoulder and told, hey, we've got a great new opportunity for you, Amy. And it was an area I didn't have any experience. I didn't have a network. And it was a shrinking part of our business. So back to the calculated risk, it was a little dicey at this point. And they actually said, Amy, you're going to be our science experiment. Let's see how this goes. And if it doesn't work out, don't worry, which that I was worried. But I decided to take the role. And it was really challenging. I learned a ton, but it unlocked a whole new chapter of my career and in areas I didn't think would ever be possible. And looking back, I'm like, wow, that was a really pivotal point in my career. And I could have easily said like, no, I think I'll pass on this one. And I was like, you know what? I'm going for it. And I wouldn't trade it for the world. So it goes back to the take the take the risks. The calculated risks are usually better ones, but don't be afraid to go outside that comfort zone.
Okay, one of the biggest risks I took was first moving from being a bench scientist. I was doing a postdoctoral fellowship at Duke University and deciding to go to law school. And so after having been in school so long, my parents definitely didn't know anything about patent law. All they could think was, why don't you get a job? And so I just really had to, think about what I had learned about patent law. I liked the excitement of the court cases on things that I was familiar with science. I liked, it looked like, drafting patent applications was really like all of the different journal articles, but it just was more interesting because it was like legal related. But then once I got started at the law firm, it was good for developing skills, but making that shift from the law firm to a pharmaceutical company really was key for me, because what I find so fulfilling is that it gives me the opportunity to pursue my career and the challenges around it, so it keeps it interesting. I'm still involved with science, and the science is to treat very difficult diseases. So I'm very close to seeing, the patients and how their lives change because of the medicines that we work on. And so it's so fulfilling. And I always wanted, with my family, I have 3 daughters, to be able to be home when I'm home. So not still working and when I get home. So my life is pretty balanced, so I can be able to have my family time, a challenging career, and then also have an important impact on life. So it's just a very fulfilling overall picture for me.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. So we have, I think, time for one more great question here in the chat room that I saw here. And again, great questions, students, and we really appreciate your fantastic comments here as well in the chat room. But Priya asked, this is interesting. What is your hack on what is the best way to communicate and build up a good community around yourself? And I think, before I throw that out there to any of you who'd like to answer, I think that, we always say at the end of these sessions, wow, that was a great panel discussion. We always come away with that, right? Catherine and Ashley are probably nodding their heads, but I think we really talked about some really, really important things today that we never really talked about before. Things like overcoming racial and gender stereotypes, overcoming economic security, and of course, dealing with grief and loss. And such important, really, really important things to talk about. And I thank you all for opening up the way you did. Amy, I'm dealing with that as well. So that's something that a lot of people don't talk about. And I think I'm really glad that you brought that up. So back to this question. And it really aligns to what we've been talking about. What is the best way to communicate and then build up that good community around yourself, that network that's really going to be there for you when we're faced with these kinds of challenges? Anyone like to take an answer to that one?
So I can start, Christy. I think, and I'm not sure if I'm thinking of the question differently than Priya's intention, but I think communicating, depending on who you are, can sometimes be very hard. Like I may be extroverted in a social setting, but at work, I do feel a little more introverted. And then in terms of talking about now, after George Floyd's murder, after everything that's been happening in the context of our country, the rise in anti-Asian hate, so many things happening. I think the company that I work for has been really great about fostering discussions about this and making space for us to have empathetic discussions, giving us the forum to have discussions, giving us the space to be vulnerable and to share our experiences and to cry. but it doesn't come very easy, because for me, at least, I listen, I learn, but I haven't really spoken because my social justice voice or my voice about mental health or whatever, these are two issues for me that I really care about. And I try to normalize that discussion. And I'm trying to normalize it by making myself speak about it. And I think it starts in baby steps for me, or at least it has, because you don't normally talk about these things at work, because at work you talk about work. But you can't really be your full self at work if you can't talk about these issues that impact who you are, your mental state, your emotional state, who you are when you come to work. And so I think the hack to communicating is really starting small. Use your voice, even if it has that quiver, even if your voice is shaking, having conversations, the same conversations, maybe practicing it with people you trust, having one-on-one discussions with people who you feel safe with, who get you, and then expanding beyond that, because by then your social justice voice or your self-advocating voice or whatever voice you're trying to strengthen, I think that muscle will be stronger. And so I think starting small with people you trust and feel safe with, and then expanding, and then whenever you feel comfortable, you can keep growing with that. And I think the community part comes with it. Once, I feel like I'm building community when I have a one-on-one discussion with someone. It doesn't have to be a giant group. I'm building my own personal community because I'm connecting with somebody on a level that wouldn't normally happen in the workspace. So I think it starts small and it can grow as big as you want it to be, but just exercising your voice and trying to get comfortable hearing your own voice, talking about sensitive issues that you're not typically comfortable talking about. It gets easier the more you do it.
I think you said it wonderfully. Yes, starting small, but start, right? The worst thing that can happen is that you never start. And then from then you become more comfortable and then you do it more. And it's about social issues, but it's also about work and advocating for yourself, etc. I also would add, so you said it wonderful, Sochel. I think that it was I couldn't have said it better. Very nice. But I also think ask questions. Sometimes I think that we are in a group and we're thinking about something, or we have a question and we are, maybe it's a stupid question. Maybe nobody else is asking it because they already know it. Ask it. It may be that other people are asking the same thing. When I started in this role, having been a physician, I was very used to expressing my opinion, and little did I know that in corporate you have to be very careful about what you say, etc. And actually my boss at the time, my manager at the time, who was my mentor in corporate, said, you are the conscience of the group because you come up, you express opinions that other people may be thinking, but they are afraid to say it. So like Socha said, it's not going to happen overnight, but you need to start doing it slowly, as long as you do it. And it just comes with time. As you mature, as you grow up, you will feel more comfortable. Listen, but also have other people listen to what you have to say and what you have to offer.
And one thing different that I could add is building what I call my board of directors. So there are people that you're meeting, like what you're describing at work, building this community, but there are some people that you want just to be really connected to, where they've got their own career path and strengths, and they'll hold you to the fire and encourage you and go through all kind of life things. And those things take work and take effort. You might, as tired as you might be, to still get yourself up and give that person a call, or if there's things that you want to do, to make the effort to do it. That has been so valuable to me. We all have a group of friends that we all had children about the same time. So all of our children are about the same age, and we're like all godmothers and to all of the kids, and we just keep that group So even no matter what happens, if they don't have a friend at school, they've got this group that they can be able to connect with. And as we go through mental health issues, as the kids grow up and have different issues, we talk to each other about it, and you can feel safe that it's not going any further than that group. And so that, I would say, in addition to building your community, also build a nice, nurturing, close group of friends, and you have to put the effort into that.
I totally agree with that. The sisterhood is so important. And I just want to add real quick one thing, that the communication question, I know Amy had talked about it, and Zoella, you touched on it. It's a two-way street. It's not just about you speaking and communicating. It's about you active listening as well, because it goes both ways. And the more you're able to active listen, the more you're able to have empathy and foster that relationship and build that connection.
That's very true. And listening is actually a skill. You know, many times at the beginning of my career, I would be having a conversation with somebody, but I was already thinking about how I was going to answer. And I had to teach myself. And again, my mentor also gave me some pointers on, you really need to listen to what the person that you're speaking to is saying, because otherwise that connection is not going to happen. So very good point, Soja. It's very, very true.
And so I think that's such an important thing too. And I'm taking notes, and I think this could be a great Women's Future Leadership Academy session. How to use your voice and how to be a good communicator and a good listener. So we thank you all very much for that. And panelists, please stay on, because before we end, we're going to take a group photo. I'm going to give everybody like a chance to go ahead, and if you want to turn your cameras on, if any of the staff wants to turn their cameras on, you're welcome to. But I'm going to take a really quick screenshot here, giving everybody enough time to get ready. So on the count of 3, 1, 2, 3, there we go. One more. All right, nice. All right, well, thank you all, panelists, for an inspiring hour this evening. We really do appreciate your time and your talents and your energy and your wisdom. And oh boy, it was fantastic. Students, thanks for joining. Thanks for your participation in the chat room. We really appreciate you. And for all of those students that are watching this recording later, we're glad you joined us today as well. And we hope to see you very soon in another episode, another session of the Women's Future Leadership Academy. On behalf of all of us at Junior Achievement, Ashley, Catherine, Sanja, and myself, thank you all so very much. Have a wonderful week, and we'll hope to see you again soon. Thank you, everybody.